Have you ever thought about the number of ways to use a beanbag? Think about it. There are so many uses. You can use them to play games, to put them in 72-hour kits. You can use them in family meetings to keep attention. You can also use them for warmth, for soothing cramps and aches. These are just some of the ways that you can use them. When I was younger, I used to use beanbags all the time for warmth. I remember multiple times running back and forth to the microwave to grab our beanbag. The beanbag that we mostly used was about this big, and it was made out of an old pair of jeans, and it was very warm. When I was a little bit older, or growing up, maybe around 9 or 10, I learned how to sew by my mom. And I began sewing things like beanbags, bags to put my school books in. Later on, I learned how to sew a quilt. I also learned how to make a 50 skirt. I also sewed some pajama bottoms and a baby dress. Sewing a beanbag is simple and it has many uses. All the ways I listed before are ways that you can use beanbags in your family. There are 3 points that I will talk about today: the preparation to be able to sew a beanbag, the actual sewing of a beanbag, and the ways to use a beanbag after it has been sewn. So let's get started. What do you need to sew a beanbag? There are some requirements and there are some things that are optional. So for required things, you need some scissors or some other way to cut your material. You need fabric, you need beans, you need a needle and thread, and you need either a way to measure it, or if you don't care about the measurement, then just cut it the way you want it. So optionals are a ruler, a cutting board, a rotary cutter, a measuring cup, and a funnel for pouring your beans. And another optional is a liner. So a liner would be used for to make beanbags sturdier. So it would basically be, instead of just making one pouch for a beanbag, you would make 2. And one of them would be used to put the beanbags in, and then you would put that, after it was sewn shut, you'd put that inside of the actual beanbag. So after you gather your materials, then you have to cut and measure. So measure how big you want it to be, and then go ahead and cut it out. So you need 2 pieces of fabric the same size. So if you're going to make a square, go ahead and get 2, maybe this big if you want a beanbag a normal size. And you can, so once you cut those out, then you're going to put the inside out. So the material that has pink fabric on it, that's going to be on the inside. So once you have that together like that, you're going to put your thread in your needle. So you want about 2 arm lengths of thread. And you're going to take that and you're going to fold it in half, stick one side through the needle hole, pull it through to where the needle's in the middle, and then you're going to tie that in a knot a couple of times to where once you put that through the fabric and pull it through, it'll stick and it won't come through. So now that you have that preparation ready, you're ready to sew. So take that fabric that has been put inside out and take your needle and thread. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a running stitch. This is the most simple way to sew, hand sew, and it's basically just taking your needle, poking it through your thread, pulling it out all the way to the end of the thread where it stops, taking it again, poking it through the opposite way, and pulling it through, and you keep doing that all the way through. And we're just going to use that same stitch. Now you can use that stitch all the way until you get to the 4th side. So the 4th side of the beanbag, if you're making a square, you want it to be open. So at that point, you will sew a couple times back and forth or knot your thread a couple times. That way when you cut the thread to pull it off, you won't have your thread coming out. Another way you could sew your beanbag to maybe make it sturdier is to do a zigzag. So instead of just doing a running stitch back and forth, you would go back and forth, but instead of going in a straight line, you would just go boop, 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 boop. That's one thing you can do as well. So after you have sewn your 3 sides and you have one left over, then you're going to put the right side out. So you're going to flip it inside, right side out. And at this point, if you're using a liner, you would fill the liner with beans. Then you would tuck the top of that material under, and you would use the same stitch you used before and just sew it back and forth to where it's shut. After that, you would stick it inside the bean bag, fold the bean bag fabric shut, and do the same thing. So it's either way you could use it. Just depends on what you want to use your bean bag for. If you want to do a liner, you could do that if you were playing games where you're tossing the bean bag. That's where you'd want a liner so it would be more sturdy. So after you have your bean bag sewn, what do you do with it? Well, and first we'll talk about games. So you can play lots of games. One of the games you can play is called cornhole, and that's where you and your teammate or somebody you're playing against, you each have a board that has a hole in it, and it's slanted upwards a little bit. And you'll stand on the opposite side of the board, so far back, and you'll just toss the beanbag into the hole. And so the point system is basically, if you get it in the hole, if you get it next to the hole, if you get it off the board. So you can look up how to actually play cornhole on cornholehowto.com. So there's other games you can play, and some of those are the thank you game. So you say, I'm thankful for this, and then after you say that, then you pass it on to the next person. And then you just keep doing that until everyone's had a turn. Another game you can play is hot potato. So when you catch it, you have to get rid of it as fast as you can. It's hot, you don't want to keep it. Another way you could do is you could heat it up and play, and you wouldn't want to keep it in your hand. So another game you could play is the scripture game, and this goes along with the next category of what you can do with the beanbag. You can use it for family home evening to keep attention. So you can play the scripture game. It's like scripture popcorn, where you read in the scriptures and then you stop. Maybe in the middle of verse, maybe at the beginning, maybe at the end. And you have to pass the beanbag to somebody else. And they have to have followed along with what you've been reading. And then they have to start off where you ended. Goes like that. My family growing up used to play that. We didn't play it with beanbags, but so instead we would say popcorn, Jeremy, or whoever we wanted to read next. But it was always fun finding the scripture, part of the scripture where you could add somebody's name onto it and make something funny. Like, and it came to pass that Jeremy built a tent, or, where it says the name, but you just skip over it. So another game you can play for family home evening is the question game, where after you've done your FHE lesson, or after you've read scriptures, then you ask a question, and then you throw the beanbag to somebody, and they have to answer the question. And then they can either throw it back to you, and you can keep asking questions, or they can ask a question and ask somebody else. Another way to use a beanbag is in a 72-hour kit. So all the ways I've listed and all the ways I will list are ways that you can use a beanbag inside of a 72-hour kit. You can use it for a source of food. You can use it as a source of entertainment, so playing games. You can use it if you have some way to heat it up. You can use it to give you warmth or soothe yourself. Another way to use a beanbag is to give you warmth. So one way to do that is to stick it in the microwave, put it in for maybe a minute or 4 minutes, or however big it is, or however hot you want it. And after you warm it, one thing you can do with it is you can use it for warmth. Another thing you can use it for is for cramps or aches. So for cramps or aches, not only can you heat it to soothe you, but you can also freeze it to soothe you. So you would usually, not for cramps necessarily, but for aches or pains. Another way to use a beanbag is to store food storage in a keep warm. So you can buy a bag of beans, and you don't even have to take the beans out of the package. you can just sew a beanbag that's large enough to cover it. So then that, you just pop it in the beanbag, fold it under, sew it shut. There you go, you have a cute beanbag, and it'll last for a while. So now that we've talked about the preparation for sewing a beanbag, the actual sewing of a beanbag, and the ways to use a beanbag, you're all set. You can go play games, or you can use it for family home evening. You can put it in your 72-hour kit. I still need to make mine, so that's a great way that I can have an addition to it. These ways are great ways to use a beanbag, and beanbags are simple to sew, and they're very useful. So just remember to prepare accordingly. Remember to sew your beanbag, and remember to use it once it's been sewn.